Working Fans Podcast. Cool.
Yep.
All right, here we go. Coming down 3, 2.
Welcome back for another week of the Working Fans Podcast. This is AJ. I'm the former wrestler. We've got Dave, the ultimate fan, here with us. As we do every week, our producer Joe likes to make us sound good and makes us look way more professional than we actually are. As always, you can find us on Twitter, that's @FansWorking, Facebook, Working Fans Pod. We've got email where you can reach out to us and please contact us to let us know what you think of the podcast and for any ideas that you might have. That's workingfanswrestlingpod@gmail.com. We're on Instagram where you can keep up with us at workingfanswrestling_pod. And then you can now listen to us on all major platforms, including Anchor.fm. We're on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Breaker, Overcast, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, Apple Podcasts, and you can actually check us out on YouTube. Now, it's important when you go onto the Apple Podcasts and YouTube, hit that subscribe button, give us a rating, let us know what you think so you can help us out and we can continue to do what we love and bring you guys in as fans.
Yeah, this is David Starr, and you're listening to the Working Fans Podcast.
Working Fans Podcast. Today, we are joined by the cream in your coffee, your favorite wrestler's favorite wrestler, the Jewish canon, the physical embodiment of charisma, the most entertaining man in professional wrestling. This one's a little tough today. The Bernie Sanders of professional wrestling, the best of the best, Mr. American Rana, Davey Wrestling, the 104-minute man, the main event. He's really good at Twitter. He's the king of taunts, the product, and today's guest on the Working Fans Podcast, David Starr. David, how are you doing today?
I'm good. You got all of the nicknames.
I got to tell you, I was worried about that because I've seen Rich Palladino do it time after time again, and I'm like, that's amazing. And then I'm looking at him, and I'm like, holy shit, I don't know if I can do this.
Rich is kind of like where it started, really. Rich Palladino was the first one. I just wanted a bunch of nicknames, and I just told him to give me a bunch, and he made up like a whole list to say a bunch of them, and I gave him a few, and then I started growing them to a set list. But Rich is the one who came up with the cream in your coffee, so that's Rich Palladino's.
Oh, that's awesome.
Wow. Now, we don't often talk politics on here, but it's kind of topical. Bernie Sanders dropping out of the presidential race today. How do you feel about that? What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, obviously it's disappointing. Like, you can't say it's not. But at the end of the day, I think you can't say that the establishment of the Democratic Party out-organized Bernie. There's some faults you could look at in the campaign, but I do think that he stuck to his principles the whole time through. I think he still has the right positions. I think a lot of people, when you saw all the exit polls, agreed with his agenda, but were basically told that they didn't think he could beat Trump. They weren't given the permission. It seemed like that was what people wanted. They were asked the question as if it's a binary choice of, would you rather a candidate you agree with or one that can beat Trump? As if, like, Bernie couldn't be both. You know, like, everyone agreed with Bernie, but he couldn't beat Trump. Why is that? He absolutely, there was no reason why he couldn't. He polled better than everybody else in the swing states, the most important states, and we'll see what happens now with Biden, who I'm extremely nervous about in November, if the election happens in November. So, I mean, yeah, it's disappointing, but, you know, Bernie, the whole movement, the idea of these politics it's way more than one electoral campaign, way more than that, and Bernie's not the type of guy who's going to stop fighting for that. He's going to keep going. I'm pretty sure till, like, his last breath, he's going to be a fighter the whole time. So it's disappointing that he won't be president, but it is what it is. Fight goes on.
Yeah. I was looking at the calendar today, and I realized the first night of Passover. So thank you very much for joining us. I hope we didn't interrupt you at all for that.
No, actually, no, you're cool, man. The Tesco near us, the market, doesn't have any like Passover stuff. Nothing like that. We've had to go to, there's like a much bigger store, but we have to walk there. It's like a further walk, and to get to like a kosher section and all that for anything like that. And I'm supposed to have a Zoom Seder with a few of my friends this weekend, so that'll be cool. And I'm going to talk to my mom, my dad, and just try and keep it as much as we can. Maybe have our own little dinner here. But no, you didn't interrupt anything tonight. We're just kind of relaxing.
Now, are grocery supplies over there as blown out as they are over here?
They were. It seems like things are getting a little bit more normal as far as, people aren't like hoarding everything. They're not like over shopping or panic buying and stuff. It seems now that that's over and there is this almost regular routine. Like now, there is like normal stocks of toilet paper seems to be happening a lot now.
Oh, wow.
Over here. Like, we're at that point, it's like, oh, okay, there is toilet paper here. That's not like this, golden object now all of a sudden. So things are getting okay, but yeah, that definitely was the case at first.
I've got to ask you, you've got a podcast called We the Independent, the Twitter's at We the Indie, website WeTheIndependent.com. What does independent wrestling mean to you, being that you branded your company that way?
Well, the idea of independent is not just about, like, literal independent wrestling. Like, obviously there's a connection there because I think independent wrestling has this aura, this vibe to it. I think independent wrestling is very counterculture, very anti-establishment. I think there is this punk rock feel to what independent professional wrestling is, this underground community, That's just how it seems to be, and there's a real bond between the performers and the fans. So that's kind of, obviously we're borrowing from that, but the idea of being independent is just standing up for yourself and recognizing your own power, and that we are able to stand up for ourselves, and that's kind of what it's supposed to be about, what the idea is supposed to embody. But that's what independent wrestling is to me. And yeah, I guess I'm happy. I guess I'm happy to have branded myself by that, because I think indie wrestling is cool.
Yeah, and from listening to the podcast, basically you're trying to include various artists, and long story short about independent, correct me if I'm wrong, is basically you guys want to give artists a chance to get into Equity, the union, so they can be fairly compensated, right? And be able to organize in a way.
Well, yeah, so we're a merchandising company, and then we're taking portions of our proceeds, and we're taking that money and we're sponsoring wrestlers in the UK into Equity membership. So we're basically sponsoring their union dues. So we're paying for their union memberships. And with that union membership, you get like a bunch of different benefits, which are like super awesome, some of which only came through because of our campaign. We the Independent and Equity working together, along with help from like Eve and stuff like that, to finally get wrestlers included on Equity's insurance, like disability welfare insurance. So if a wrestler gets hurt, they can still get paid for shows they miss. Like it's pretty fantastic, the benefits you get with that. And part of that also, when you join Equity, is it does give you more collective power. So then we have the idea of being a subsection of Equity, being a wrestler's protection thing. We're also looking to have codes of conduct that are negotiated through Equity, and the more promotions that sign up to that, it almost can become a little mini unionized territory. And you could have we're way far away from all that, but like those are like the things you can build to create an independent wrestling scene that has a good safety net for the independent wrestlers that are a part of it.
Yeah, you really got to start somewhere. And I really connected with your whole movement because a year ago, the grocery store that I work for, we actually went on strike for, it was like a good week. It's actually coming up, the anniversary of it, April 11th this year. And
oh, hell yeah. Well, what were you striking for?
The company wanted to cut back on benefits it was giving us, and all the union was trying to do was keep what we had. And as it went on, it just became a thing where they wouldn't budge. So we went on strike, and I was one of the few people that kind of had hurt feelings over it because I felt like neither side cared. And I came out of the strike really jaded. And then I've been a fan of yours for years, and I happened to cross your podcast, and the urgency with which you talk and the conviction with which you speak, I've never heard. And then it made me realize how lucky I am to be in a union and how the carefree kind of existence I have is only because there's those guarantees. So when you talk about codes of conduct for them to work with, I saw that when going to other jobs last summer, when they got like 1 break a day, and I'm like, wait a minute. I got 2 breaks and a lunch coming to me if I'm here 8 hours. And they just laughed. They're like, nah, bud, you work in a different place now. So I just wanted to thank you for really bringing the union talk to the front, especially when it's got to work against you a lot of times. I imagine it's got to cost you money and opportunities. How do you persevere in the face of that?
Well, I mean, yeah, I've lost a couple bookings and opportunities from things I've said and stuff, but you have to think, I guess you just think about what you're doing it for. What was it, Eddie King? I can quote Eddie Kingston all the time. He said to me, he said, there's a price to being real, and you don't take money with you to the grave. So, like, basically, just be yourself, be real, just stay by whatever what you think is the right thing to do is just what you should be doing. I guess that's it. I hate sounding any sort of kind of way like that, because it's just the things that we're talking about are things that should just be normal. Like when you talk about any other athlete, they have these protections. They have the ability to fight for their own terms and conditions. It's little things like that. The pro wrestler is just not afforded the same opportunities, and that's really what it should just be everybody waking up to. So I appreciate you saying that, though, like, because there's a massive amount of propaganda that is lobbied against unions from a lot of people. So it's, even if something gets better for you, someone else is stealing from you then. And then you have the 2 biggest movies that have come out, or you just recently had the anti-union, or The Irishman, is this corrupt union movie that just came out, and everyone's like all like weirded out by unions. And that, you have to fight against that and realize that that's the only way we have to fight back against the people that actually have power.
Oh yeah, we had people. It wasn't a lot of people, because we did see a lot of support from the community, but there was a rare few that would scream at us, get a real job, why are you guys being so greedy? And that really hurt, because I'm like, how are we being greedy, standing up for what we think is right in such a tough time, like right after the start of the new year? So different people view unions in different ways, and it's hard when you're on the other side of that and you can't get through to them.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that there is an acceptance of the way it is, and I think it appears to be such a daunting task to imagine anything different, and I think that really stifles people's imagination, and people fear change, and I think that's a huge reason why people fight change. They think of like the idea of an overhaul of an economic system, or basically they think that anything that's not entirely 100% capitalist, which no one's like overthrown capitalism tomorrow. I'm sorry, it's just not happening tomorrow. So everyone's got to chill out, but like we're just going to balance the scales a little bit more, you know, and we have to.
Yeah.
I think people get afraid of something that's different.
Now, do you come from a family of activists, or is this something that's particular to you? Because you're very outspoken, you're very well-spoken about your stance. Is this a family thing, or is this just something you picked up?
No, I mean, I think it's a family thing to be loud, but the family thing to be loud, and my brother's also my brother's a working actor in New York, so I mean, I guess we have a little bit of entertainers thing in us, but no, nothing politically like that at all. It's just I attach myself to it. I think that it's the most real thing that's happening, the most relevant thing there is. It's what's actually dictating lives. It's determining life and death. It's the most important thing there is, and we need to do everything we can to prevent as much suffering as possible.
As Joe's talking about, you're a very good talker. I was just kind of wondering, like, when I watch you do promos, who are some of your influences? Because, especially I was listening to, the one you did at Over the Top Rope about Moxley and the Black Machismo one for a few years ago. And I think, there's this element of realism in there. And I always think that those are the best promos. I think of guys like Terry Funk and people like that. So I'm just wondering, where do you get that influence from?
Oh, man. I just, honestly, I like watching all the great wrestling promo guys. I've watched a bunch of times. But I mostly like watching people that are, real athletes. I love watching Muhammad Ali stuff. I love watching, Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor and all those guys. Those always entertain. Deion Sanders as well, Terrell Owens. I like that kind of athlete. That was who I was attracted to as a fan. So that's just always what I did. I just kind of try to do it my own way. I guess how it felt natural to me, how I would act if I was mad, or I don't know. I just try. I always try to listen to the thing that I heard JR say on a shoot interview. It's just be yourself, but turn it up to 11. Those are the best things that work, or just the volume turned up on you, something like that. That's just always what I'm always trying to do in every aspect. So I try to think of how I would be as an athlete, and so I just kind of go into what I was like when I was an athlete, wrestling in college and high school, and how I acted and how I carried myself and the way I moved and the way that's just what I always thought. That's the way I always try to treat it. It goes with promos too.
The gentleman at Over the Top Rope I saw you do the interview with Agnes, I believe.
Angus. Yeah, Ango.
Yeah.
Ango. Yeah, Angus McAnally.
Yes, he plays off you very well, and when I see you taking these digs, it almost reminds me of something I would do to piss off one of my exes or something. It's very quiet, almost this smug, you would and he looks legitimately angry, and you guys are really it's a very engaging when I watch it.
Ango's the man. He's great. I believe he's a working actor in Ireland. He's great. We always just go off the cuff all the time, and we just work off. And it's not even we have this little rivalry thing we have. Wasn't booked or anything like that. We just kind of started. It just kind of has grown, and that's the great thing. OTT is the best independent wrestling company in the world. It just is. And Angus is one of the big reasons for it. He's a great commentator. He's a great actor. He's great in his interviews. He's fantastic. So everyone should go check out OTT, by the way. Go watch all of that.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely planning on it. I saw some interviews and stuff. I was preparing for this, and I was like, okay, I have to see more of this. This is very well done.
No, OTT is the best independent wrestling company in the world right now. It's OTT, Beyond. I'm trying to think of ones that are actually just completely independent. OTT, Beyond, PWG, Game Changer. Yeah.
Yeah, the first time I saw you was Beyond Wrestling, and the thing we talked about in the beginning where you had the different nicknames with Rich there, and I'm it grabbed me right away because this was 2015, I want to say, and I was first getting back I never really broke away from wrestling, but I hadn't kept up with independence, and a buddy of mine said you got to check out independent wrestling, and Beyond was one of the first shows I went to, and I just remembered that. It caught me right away. It was something different, and I was like, okay, I like this. I like the 10, 15 nicknames here.
Beyond's the best. Beyond's one of my favorite places I've ever worked for because I've been there for forever. If it wasn't for me putting over OTT so hard right there, you'd be hearing the same thing about Beyond. But Beyond is so great, and they get talent in from the beginning, including even before I had any nicknames. And then Rich Palladino, like I said before, him helping me out, kind of the length of time the nickname list was going to be, and then Dan Barry being there gave me another nickname. There was a lot. Beyond's actually very, very linked to it. I mean, Mr. American Rana is after Beyond's big show, American Rana. Davey Wrestling is from a two-match feud I had with Johnny Gargano from Beyond Wrestling. So it's very intertwined with Beyond. So I love that place. And thanks for even bringing that up. I was thinking about that. I haven't been thinking about wrestling that much over the past, just sitting here with all the boredom around.
No, I get it, man. There's a lot to be distracted by. Well, how do you feel about that? I mean, WWE, AEW, and any company right now that's putting on a wrestling show in empty arenas, where do you fall on that?
Nah, not anymore, man. It's not okay at this point. It shouldn't be happening. I did a empty arena show, No Fans Monday, and that was borderline and probably shouldn't have happened. But if there was anything done even the next day, that would have been totally out of bounds. We are clearly at the point now where awareness is enough to where we can't be having these gatherings. You can't be having people travel in and out. It's wrong. Sends the wrong message. It's just a wrong thing to do. It's risking workers' health. It's wrong.
Yeah.
The longer we wait till lockdown, the longer we're going to have to wait to get to the other side of this. So, we just got to this should just be shut down. There's no excuse at this point.
No, I understand. And, it's funny, I'm a big MMA and UFC fan as well, and I hear Dana White, getting a private island to have fights. And I'm like, is this Mortal Kombat? Are we coming to the, what are we doing? It's just crazy.
Yeah, come on, man. No, just postpone it.
Right.
But it is insane that they're even thinking about this. They'll do anything to make sure they make their money. It's ridiculous. It's gross. It's gross.
Let me ask you something else. Just going back to wrestling, the artistic point of this. You said you were in an empty arena match. One thing I've noticed, and this isn't talking about Terry Funk and Jerry Lawler, where there was this story back in the day, but I've noticed by watching empty arena matches with no story, just an empty arena match, it's very hard to get into without the fans. This is just I'm curious what you think, but I noticed, right, it's hard to get into without the fans for me. I do tend to find the people who can verbalize more and actually talk will bring me in, and it's got to be muscle memory. I'm no way judging anybody. I totally get it. You still see people just instinctively playing to the crowd. What are your thoughts? How do you psychologically go into that? And what do you think?
You just gotta, in an empty arena match, in my opinion, just focus on the match. Just focus on the match. You don't need to play. There's ways you can be if you make it so that you're not a hokey playing to the crowd. You're not begging for it. If you come up with ways to do that in your actual matches when there were crowds, then you wouldn't be reliant on that and feel weird in an empty arena match. We shouldn't be pandering so much anyway. We should kind of be more subtle about it. I mean, there's a time and a place for everything. You know what I mean? But we should limit our direct pandering as much as we can, I think. And if you just approach an empty arena match just by focusing on the match itself, then you should be fine. It's rough, man. It's weird. If you're not used to it, especially, it's weird. But you get through it, and then if you're, you get through it, you focus on the match. You try and just seem aggressive and make up for the lack of sound and make sure they're not watching a silent movie. That's pretty much all you can do is try and have a good match, man.
Yeah, I noticed the guys that with a lot of experience, especially coming from the indies for a while, like Bryan Danielson, they seem to really adapt better to it on a bigger stage. Almost they were used to probably wrestling in front of small people, I'd imagine, too. So they know.
Yeah, I was going to say I've wrestled in front of 2 people before. I think that was there was a tweet that was going around that said what's the smallest crowd you've wrestled in front of, and there was a bunch of people in single digits. We're used to that, and that's way more terrifying than wrestling in front of thousands.
Did you have a chance to see, I'll just call it, whether it was online, the cinematic wrestling? And I mean, we could look back at the stuff that Matt Hardy's done in the past too, with Ultimate Deletion and stuff like that. But, there was a lot of talk this week about that. What are your opinions about that? The cinema wrestling, we'll call it.
Well, I think it's cool, man. Why not?
Yeah, no, I agree.
I'm open to all stuff in wrestling. You know what I mean? Like it's pro wrestling. It doesn't have it doesn't have to be two guys in trunks that are pro wrestlers. I accept the Undertaker because I'm willing to go outside the box. You know, you have to be willing to accept that sort of stuff. So why not? It's something different. I think it's cool as long as it's done right. I guess it's always about as long as it's done right. That's it.
I would agree because I'm a fan, and I personally like a more realistic, athletic, hard-hitting presentation, and I like the Boneyard thing they did. And then I saw the Funhouse, and it wasn't necessarily my thing, but I thought it was so well done by the people who produced it and the stuff I've seen too, like with Matt Hardy, that it brings me in. I'm engaged. You know, I don't know if I'd want to watch it all the time personally, but I like it. I'm obviously not against it. Anybody, like you said, it's art, whatever you bring to it. But I would say, like, even not even being something I normally would like flock to watch, I was like, this is so well done. I'm into this. And it was a break from something else I was watching too.
Yeah, dude, I think it's cool. You know, I just think it's cool. Why not? If you could do something different, like if you can do something different that's going to stand out, you're still entertaining people. You're still telling a story. Why not, man? I think it's more power to everybody. Like, it also gets more people more jobs. You know, like the production people get to edit stuff and do that. Yeah, sure. There's great people that they have hired there, so let's let them work.
You live in England now, right?
I do. I live just outside of London.
And now, what made you decide to do that? Just love the area? Was it for work, or how did that come about?
Well, I was working a lot over here, so my girlfriend is from here, and I mean, it made more sense, again, because I was working over here so much. I liked working over here a lot. Being over here, I don't have to worry about healthcare because that's just taken care of. So it just made more sense to be here, and yeah, I really like it.
When you're on the road, what might be like, especially now since it's not really an option too much, but like, what would be a go-to restaurant that you would normally go to?
A go-to restaurant? Well, it depends on where I'm. It depends on where I am. Because if I'm, what is it? What was the one? Oh man, I can't even think about it. Because I'm in North Carolina. There's this like a burger. There's like a burger place that I can't think of the name. I used to go there with Tim Donst all the time, and I can't remember the name. Oh, this is terrible. But when I always go to like Steak and Shake. Steak and Shake. I always go there when I'm in the Midwest. I always go to Steak and Shake in the Midwest. Other restaurants, I'm always ending up at like a Denny's or something like that, or with like a Bob Evans. No, I hate Cracker Barrel. I hate it.
I was wondering, this is kind of a cliche one.
Yeah, I do hate Cracker Barrel. I love diners. I miss them so much. There's no diners over here. It's just not like a thing. I'm just gonna say like Denny's. That's probably on the road. I end up at a Denny's or like a McDonald's. It's probably the most frequent places. So
with the We the Independent, like when did you first get that idea?
Basically, James Musselwhite, my business partner, we recorded a couple promos before. We really liked working together. And then we did this one for Progress Super Strong Style 16 this past year. And it was just good. And James drew up this logo on his computer, and we were like, all right, and we just kind of ran with it. And then we came up with, we're like, what could we do about this? Because obviously we had our own things. We wanted to kind of give something back. We didn't want to just oh yeah, great, we're going to be selling these T-shirts, and then that's that. We kind of wanted to do something. We didn't want to just kind of talk about it. We wanted to be about it. So then we just kind of came up with the idea, and we set up a meeting with Equity, and then everything kind of got rolling from there, man. It was just kind of, we realized we wanted to do something.
That's awesome. For as long as you can remember, have you always been this driven? Because you definitely seem like a guy who probably doesn't sleep a lot and has a lot of stuff going on.
I'm definitely, I try and maintain structure as much as I can because I want to keep myself busy. That's absolutely the truth. But I don't know, my friends have always said that if there's something that I want, that I go 110% at it. Like, it's hard for me to have multiple focuses. I go at something as much as I can, like when I'm facing it, like a million miles an hour. So my biggest thing I'm trying to do is just stay patient. That's the biggest thing, is learning patience and getting excitement and having excitement, but still keeping yourself collected, but not taking away any of the joy from your ups. It's all a learning process, but yeah, I guess I do feel pretty driven to do something because I want to make sure that I leave a good legacy.
That's awesome. David, you've been great. Anything you want to promote right now, and where can people find you?
Sweet. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on. Just go for merchandise from me, davidstarmerch.com, or you can go to my Twitter or Instagram page. You can see the links to my other merchandise stores are there. My Twitter and Instagram is @theproductds. Go to wetheindependents.com, and you can pick up some merch from there. You can also go to our podcast, wetheindependents.com/podcast. We have a bunch of great episodes. We just dropped the Eddie Kingston episode, I believe, last night, and that was wild. We have some other great ones with Shane Taylor, and Sugar Dungerton has a bunch of great episodes there too, with Effie and Faye Jackson, and it's awesome. So I think that's all that I have to. Oh, and you check I think that @WeTheIndie, spelled with an IE, not a Y, because we're indie, not indie. So I think that's it.
Awesome. David, thank you so much for your time. This is a great interview. I'll let you know when it's coming out, and I appreciate all your help, man.
Oh, sweet. Thanks, man. I appreciate it, guys.
All right, so that wraps us up for this week. Thank you again for listening to the Working Fans Podcast. So as always, you can find us on Twitter @FansWorking. Our Facebook page is Working Fans Wrestling Pod. We have email where you can reach out to us and let us know what you think also. That's workingfanswrestlingpod@gmail.com. Follow us on Instagram, workingfanswrestling_pod. And then as always, please continue to listen to us on Anchor.fm, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Breaker, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, all your major platforms. If you're following us on Apple Podcasts, which we are also on now, and YouTube, please make sure you subscribe and give us a 5-star rating. It helps us bring you these podcasts where we get to talk to you and talk with you every week.